Nearly there, boys. Yep, we're live, so we can start in a minute.
Stop talking.
Yep, we're live, so we can start in a minute.
Stop.
Oh, no. Right, Neil, start us off, man. We are live.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the latest episode of And He Takes That Chance, our second live episode. So we're still being very brave getting out there, and if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. What can really go wrong? It's only a chat between friends, isn't it? Obviously, tonight we're welcoming and saying goodbye at the same time to what I personally consider a legend of the football club, and that's rare to find in somebody who's not kicked a ball for the team. So yeah, Huddersfield's best dressed, one of the nicest guys you could possibly meet. He's dressed down day to day, obviously, but one of the nicest guys you could possibly meet. I'd like to welcome Sean Jarvis to the podcast tonight. Evening, Sean.
Good evening, fellas. It's an honour. You brought a lump to my throat straight away there, Neil. So it could be an emotional time we have tonight. But I'm honoured to be here. Mixed emotions. I'm so proud that I've done what I've done, but it's time to close the book, really. So I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
Definitely. Well, before we close the book, let's start from page one. Have a bit of a look through it first, shall we? Obviously, you've been with the town 13, 14 years now. So it's obviously you live in the area. It's a massive, massive part of your life. Mixed emotions, you say now. A lot of happy memories, Sean. If you look back over your time, there's been very few sort of low points, really. Obviously, the few stand out as fans. Obviously, you're a fan now yourself. So just talk us through a few of the highlights first, the stuff that really stands out as putting a smile on your face.
You're right. The sort of nearly 14 years spent at town have been truly amazing. And I started to scribble down some of the memories, and I just kept going on and on and on with all the different fantastic things. So I'm sure we'll talk about all different things as we go along, but there are so many. There are so many I could mention, and even I had a text earlier from a member of staff, sort of saying good luck tonight, and make sure you mention all these things. And they've listed some of the stuff that I've forgotten, and the text is phenomenal. So it's been an emotional 15 years. I've loved every minute. I've given every minute. And for me, it is a sad day that I'm leaving town, which is officially next Tuesday. But I look back on my time, my 14 years at time with real fondness, and I could really seriously list so many different things, and I'm pretty sure we'll chat about a few of them as we go along. But I think probably my proudest moment, probably surviving the Millbridge bus to I'm alive, was probably my number one achievement. I've never drank black Sambuca like I did, flaming Sambuca. So
there you go. We're ready.
So, to survive that was an achievement, I think, in itself.
Tell us how you arrived at Huddersfield. So obviously you were marketing director at Oldham for 6 years, and then made the trip to the right side of the Pennines and joined us. How did that come about? Were you headhunted? Did you apply? How did it come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I was at Boundary Park and spent 7 years at Boundary Park, and that was an incredibly tough time. Real handsome house stuff, and one particular year where I actually owned the club. I had to buy the club, otherwise it was going to be a bury. So I had to sort of step in with the accountant at the time and did what we did. But maybe that's a story for another day. And then we eventually got 3 American lads to come in and take over at Boundary Park, and I did a couple of years for them, and I'd probably gone as far as I could with Oldham at that time, and they wanted to go in a certain direction, and that was great. And then I got a phone call from a friend of mine, sort of said, "Look, I don't know if you've seen this, but you should apply for the job at Town." And it was a combination of both rugby league and football. And of course, I've been involved in what was called the framing of the future, the shift of rugby league from winter to summer. So I kind of knew a lot about rugby league at the time, and so I applied. I lived over here. I just had a little boy, Josh, who's not so little anymore, and it just felt right. It felt the right thing for me to do. So I pinged that in and got an interview, and next thing I know, I was employed. And I give credit to, I think, the person that I would say that brought me in was probably, you'd have to ask them that, but I would say was Ralph Rimmer. I think he's the Chief Operating Officer at the RFL now.
Done a good job, yeah.
He was the guy that saw something in me that he felt was right for both Town and Giants. And I remember coming home and telling the wife and family, and they were really excited about it. And it just felt right. It just felt right for me. And that was day one. And I came across, I think it was Yeovil before I officially started. And I was in the boardroom having a bite to eat in the boardroom, and this was under the stewardship of Ken Davey. And I was in there. I was having a bite to eat, and I think Town may have got beaten that day. And then there were demonstrations outside, and I'm thinking, my God, what have I let myself in for here? You know, but you know, and I could talk about Fight for Answers and all that sort of thing back in the day. And how they made an impact on me and Town. So it was a challenging start, shall we say? But I always gave everything in every single day that I worked at that club, and still do till Tuesday. I gave everything I possibly could, and I always felt that I always wanted to do it with dignity, with pride, with class. Humility and respect was always my kind of mantra when I worked at Town. So when
Gary Monk's,
it felt right. It felt right.
All Gary Monk's words then, Sean. Learned from the best. Sean,
Yeah.
when you arrived at Huddersfield compared to Oldham, how much, obviously the club wasn't kind of like obviously it was now with turnover, etc., but was it such a big upgrade in Oldham in terms of size and kind of what you found, or was it, because we were just coming out of administration at the time, was it still in a bit of, we say, intensive care?
Yeah, it was. You're right, Cozzy. It was, and you know, casting my mind back, Oldham were actually higher in the league than Town at that point. But you knew, as an individual, you knew that the potential was there. And when I came over, you just knew it had kind of lost its connection with its fan base, connection with its community. It was just lacking in all these areas, and that it was going to take a lot of hard work. And I remember one of the first meetings I held in the Fantastic Media Suite, and the board were there, and I just joined, and so I was literally a week in the job, and somebody said to me, "How are you going to fill all the empty spaces of the perimeter boards around the ground?" And I remember looking back, you know, gates of 8 to 10,000 people in the stadium, empty boards. I was chatting to somebody today, one of the suites opposite the boardroom, it was like tumbleweed in there. So you could see it was in a bad place. But that was the opportunity. That was the challenge, I think. And it, you know, it's not just down to me. There are lots and lots of staff that have come and gone, and people who are no longer with us that have all contributed to I've just got to catch my breath because thinking of a couple of individuals. That journey, it's not just me, it's everybody that's kind of contributed, really.
People there, the tributes are flowing in already. Sean, Ryan Durnley, legend Sean with a love heart. One's Lord 3, all the best, Sean. Peter Swallow, taken our club far since he joined the club. Top guy. Pleasure to have had the chance to get to know him over the years. So there'll be a lot more. So hope you've got some tissues ready, mate. So, how much influence did you have at the Giants, Sean? Obviously, Ralph Rimmer, it sounded like he interviewed you or brought you over, but was it 70% football, 30% rugby at that time? How did it work?
Yeah, do you know, when I joined, it was full on, and I was working every day, including Saturdays and Sundays. So Saturday you'd have a town game, Sunday you'd have a Giants game, whether a double header. It was incredibly busy, and you didn't get a day off. And I'm not that sort of individual where, you know, I've worked a weekend, I've got to have Monday or Tuesday off. You know, it's just not my style. So it was full on, and Giants were on the up at that time. You know, you could see that the potential was there. They were developing, they were getting things right, they were engaging, they were bringing in some good quality players. So they were progressing. But deep down, I've always been a football man. That for me was my passion. So whilst I had to contribute on both sides, I always erred towards the football, really. And then I'm sure we'll talk about the Dean Hoyle era coming in, and
we might mention it.
Yeah, sure. And then, you know, Dean sort of had the conversation with me and wanted me to focus on football. So I gravitated towards the football, really.
So I'm guessing from that, Sean, I'm guessing that when Dean came in, there must have been a certain kind of, I don't know, mutual respect sort of pretty quickly, and you've got on really well, and he could obviously see the job that you're doing. You have got an idea for the sort of kind of guy that Dean is.
Yeah. And
how did it then come around where it became a lone club job and away from the rugby?
Yeah, I think, you know, Dean was incredibly passionate about Huddersfield Town when he came in, and you could see what it meant to him. You could see the passion he had for the club, and that resonated with me, and it made me more and more determined for the football club to succeed. And you'd have to ask Dean. I mean, Dean made the choice, and I think he said to me that he wanted me 100% on the football club. And I wasn't a director then, you know. I was an employee of the club, if you like, just doing my job, getting on with it. I mean, I do have a lovely story that he may deny, but obviously Dean came in. He was a bit of a retail magnate, done incredibly well with a card factory, building that, and I don't know if you recall the pink and white striped shirts that we did. And I phoned Dean and I said, Dean, I've had this idea. I want to do 1,000 shirts, pink and white shirts. We won't play in them. We didn't play in them at that time. But I want to put them on sale, replica kits, and sell a bit of money for breast cancer. In particular, the HRI breast cancer unit in Huddersfield. And I mentioned this to a few people around the club, and nobody was backing me. And I phoned Dean and I said, Dean, I want to do this. And Dean was very cautious about it. He was very nervous, and he was like, and I wasn't getting good vibes from him. So I sort of said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll actually buy all those 1,000 kits personally. And then I'll just take the money back when we've sold them all, and the proceeds can go to the HR. And he said to me, I like that. So then he backed me. And I must admit, I was bricking it when they came in. But when they came in, we sold them in 24 hours. And I think we raised 10, 15 grand for HRI. You know, Pink Link sponsored it. So it was a great thing. And I think that probably cemented my relationship with Dean a little bit. And then, the rest, I guess, is history with our relationship with Dean.
I think in your role, you've got to have sort of courage your convictions, haven't you, and go out there and sort of put a stamp on. And you are chasing sometimes streets with no end, aren't you? It's, you've got to back yourself to go out there and get this business in. I mean, like we spoke earlier about the boards being empty. And I remember sitting there when there were 8, 9, 10,000 there. You look around and you just think, it's just dead. The crowd were dead. The place looked lost. And not that particularly an old ground then either. So to do what you've done and to where it is now, I mean, frankly, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's been a good journey. So go on, Sean. Your biggest highlight at Huddersfield Town.
Wow.
Without promotion to Premier League.
Oof.
Millbridge bus.
I think my liver just about recovered from that. God, it's so difficult. It's so difficult to actually pinpoint someone. So I might give you 3 or 4 that really mean a lot to me. I think the bike rides, doing the 10 bike rides, is phenomenal. To raise, I think it's over 2 million quid
Ridiculous.
for the charities over those 10 years. For a football club to do that, a football club of our size, of our standing at that time, to do that, it is phenomenal. So, and that started a conversation, me and Dean in the Heritage Suite, as it was back then. That's phenomenal. I think I'm incredibly proud of the staff that have come through and still there. The relationship that I have with those and how I've seen them develop into individuals. And even somebody like Sue Beaumont, who's been there 25 years and his town through and through. When I joined, she was a prickly character that was kind of stuck in her ways. But over the 15 years, we've had a tremendous relationship where we've just bounced off each other, flourished and developed, and things like that see that stadium full, in that promotion season. Unbelievable, absolutely phenomenal, and to have played my part in that. The Huddersfield 100, incredibly passionate about the town. As you know, I'm a Leicester lad. That's where I was kind of born and bred. But I live up here, and I tell you what, I would fight for Huddersfield, and I have done. I've been in places where people sort of frown upon you, look down upon you.
Is this Twitter, Sean, you're on about?
Yeah. And so I'd fight tooth and nail, and I still will. I still, whatever my journey holds going forward, I will fight for Huddersfield. I'll make sure that it's known. And we've got a place up here, so family up here. So it's still very, very close to my heart. So that's incredible. I mean, the journey to the Premier League, unbelievable. The launch of the foundation and what the foundation now did. I remember standing up in the school, the North Huddersfield School, and delivering the launch of the foundation. So what that achieves is unbelievable. There's just so many, record attendances, all those sorts of things. People like Tracy Nelson. Tracy Nelson was another one, was very difficult to begin with, but our relationship, fantastic. And a real diamond for the club. John Williams, been there a few years. John had been made redundant, was clearly on his backside. And that guy has developed into a phenomenal commercial manager, with a really bright future ahead of him. So for me, there are so many, and getting to know so many friends. I think,
Sean, we've got some more messages coming in.
Yeah.
Bob, I don't know who this is, but you're looking pale, mate. All the best. I think it's meant to say from down under David Jane. Jessica Walker, going to miss you and your selfies and our selfies. Paul Gibson, good luck, Sean. Thanks for all the hard work, mate. Jamie Dent, an outstanding servant to the club. All the best for the future, Sean. Hopefully you'll manage to make your way back to watch a game 1 or 2 when it's safe. And Neil Jacobs, thanks, Sean. Thanks for all you have done in the community, especially for Yorkshire Air Ambulance and Pedal for Pounds. Great memories. I mean, Yorkshire Air Ambulance, I want to talk a little bit about that, because that was quite a journey. And I kind of thought it was so ironic, the game, obviously the Leeds game and Tommy Smith and the fact it landed on the pitch. I think it hit home for everyone there. This was something affecting us, and it was unbelievable at the time. And obviously there was the shirts, and we were so big, weren't we, there, for the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, I think in the mid kind of 2011, 12, 13 season. Why was that kind of our chosen charity, Sean? Was it just something close to the club's heart, or was it a link in there? Why did we go to the Air Ambulance?
It was an interesting one, really. What we did is decided that we wanted an official charity relationship. We weren't quite sure where it was going to go, what it would look like. So we invited a number of charities in to come and see us and sort of sit down and chat to us about them. What were their ideas of a relationship with us? And Yorkshire Air Ambulance came in and they sort of said, look, this is not about, for us, it's not about rattling tins on every single match day. And that's the last thing we wanted. We didn't want to annoy our fans by sort of saying, come on, dip into your pockets all the time. That wasn't what it was about. It was about trying to really raise the profile of something that needed its profile raising, that we could do things with. So, and we had a great relationship with Paul Gowland, who was the chief fundraiser at the time, came in, and we just hit it off, and he got where we're coming from, and then the relationship was born, and we sort of said, right, well, let's put you on the front of the shirts, let's do something. What we're going to do? And so the first bike ride was born, and I remember Dean sort of saying, right, we're going to do this bike ride. So I said, fine, okay. Fixtures are out June 21st. Let's see who comes out, and we'll cycle there. So I'm thinking, great. Well, if let's say Oldham come out, that's only a 15-mile bike ride. That's all right. And then Dean sort of said, no, I want to announce it now, so that whoever comes out the hat, that's where we're going to. So I was like, oh God, I'm looking down the division, seeing all these teams, thinking, what on earth, where are we going to end up here? So we did that. We announced it, and then the fixtures. The night before the fixtures, Dean sent me a text. He says, Gillingham is the fixture. And I'm thinking, oh, shit, it wasn't. So he's winding me up, but it wasn't. But then bloody Southend come out, didn't it? Which is just as far. So the first bike ride was born. And I think it was 22 people cycled from Huddersfield to Southend for that first game. And the last time I'd ridden a bike, I'd have probably been about 12. So it was a phenomenal challenge for me, and it started from there. And then the second year we got 168 people. I think the third year we got about 270. So it mushroomed really, really quickly. And to this day, the number of people that have cycled the length and breadth of the country and in Europe is phenomenal. Team, I could name all the Team Green, Alcoholics, Team Red, Nutters, they cycle everywhere, so Team Black, the Rebellions, but phenomenal. Team Blue, that was us. Team Pink, who used to wear tutus and stuff. And it kind of created a camaraderie like no other. And I think that's what makes it special. It was a connection between a football club and its people. Yeah. And once you put that cocktail together and got it right, and to this day, I still don't see any other club matching what we've done. It was something that was purely magical. And over the years, as you said, Tommy Smith, it meant Tommy Smith. A lady called Karen Brook is one of the cyclists who had a horrendous accident with a horse, fell on her. So she's still recovering to this day. And the ambulance came out to her. One of the proudest things that the Yorkshire Ambulance told me was that since we started the campaign and the money we raised, that has paid for every single air flight from the Yorkshire Air Ambulance in Kirklees. So all those call outs have all been paid for by our people that have done it. So
Fantastic.
unbelievable. And you never, ever, that can affect anybody at any time.
It's actually a real shame you've not got to do this year, isn't it?
I wouldn't
Sort
say
a good way to sign off. Or are you relieved?
Yeah, I have to say I'm relieved. I looked out for the weather on those days, and it was beautiful. But
yeah.
I probably hadn't done as much training as I've done in the past. I'm not a massive cyclist, but yeah, you know, I've done 10. Whether I come back for number 11 or not when it does get up will remain to be seen. But I think there are 5 of us. There are 5 of us that have done 10, and you know, incredibly proud of those individuals as well. You know,
some achievement.
Gosh,
So,
unbelievable.
when you joined the board of directors I've done my homework here, June 2009, what was that a real proud achievement for you? How can that work for people who kind of obviously just maybe pay the pie in a pint and get to the games on a Saturday? What did that mean to you kind of in your day-to-day role? Were you making big calls on people to be kind of just everything really? How did that work?
Yeah, it was for me personally and my family an incredibly proud a proud moment for me. I'll tell you how I was told. I'd worked with Dean, I think probably a couple of years or whatever it was, and we'd gone to York races as a club. Dean had paid for a trip up to York races. So we had a table there for some of the staff. It was brilliant, great day, camaraderie and all that sort of stuff. We had a good day out. And then Dean came up to me afterwards, after the day, just had a quiet word with me and said, "I'm going to make you a director." Which, you know, was it expected? Not really. You know, I always aspired to be that, but I'd earned it. I'd worked for it. I put my shift in, as Dean would say. I was at it all the time. And I said to him, the only thing I said to him is, "I will not let you down." And that was it. And that was the point then, really. And I remember coming home that weekend, sort of having a barbecue with the family, cracking open a bottle of champagne, and it just gave me more desire to succeed and achieve, really. At the end of the day, directorship is a title. That's all it is. It's about what you do, what you achieve, how you contribute, how you walk out of that stadium every single night with your head held high. That is more important than any title. Yeah. And I'm proud to say that I'm a massive believer in a flat management structure. Everybody within that organisation is my equal. It didn't matter. And I always wanted to treat everybody with respect, whether it be a fan from the terraces and to be a multi-billionaire who might be a supporter of the club. It didn't matter. It's about what you do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that football club move forward. That was important for me.
So, Sean, I actually spoke to James Howard a couple of weeks ago from Brighouse Town, chairman, and he was really complimentary on you and the kind of commercial network you and your team build up. How does that feel? Do you feel like that will kind of be your legacy as you kind of move on?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, what my legacy? I don't know. I think it's down to the fans to decide that. I think the relationships with the people, particularly, let's talk about the commercial side now. The commercial people was incredibly important to me. Huddersfield is not a massive town. You know, it's not a city. It hasn't got that many big players in there, and even those, the big players such as Mamas and Papas who use international brand, has found it hard. Has found it really, really tough over the past decade. So our businesses are not amazingly cash rich, but there are some unbelievable people in those businesses. And for me, that's what made it special. And I always felt that to help those businesses, that we needed to build those bridges, build those relationships. Yes, they had to pay for commercial properties and the rights to be associated to the football club. That's how it works. But by the same token, it was about, well, what can we do to help you? How can we help build your business on a platform that is football? Because if they're successful, then they'll come back year after year after year and continue to support you. And the more successful they are, the more they will back you. And, you know, retention rate for the 100 has been, you know, in the 90s, high 90s at times. And I'm proud to have seen a lot of businesses sort of develop over that period, you know, gone from strength to strength. And I love hearing stories about businesses trading with businesses. So, you know, I know of one or two people who have used people from in the network and kept employment, kept jobs, kept funds in the region and in the area. And by the same token, I wanted to attract businesses to come and join the party. And there were businesses from outside of the region that were supporting. People like Grand Central Rail, Sean English, become a massive fan, big Celtic fan, but become a massive fan of Huddersfield Town and really supports the club and helped me and you know, spread the word in London when we're on our journey to the Premier League and getting down there and meeting people. The things like that were all catalysts to trying to help the local economy. And I think that for me is incredibly important. But again, it's about the relationships you develop. And, you know, I term these people as friends of mine. And like you would for any friend, you try and help them. You try and support them where you can. Yes, we know we've got a commercial business to run and they appreciate that. But you work together. And there are times, as we know, when football is not as good as it can be. We have bad periods. So you need to turn to those people and go, I need your help here. You know, we need to try and get the message out there. What can you do to help us? And people like PPG used to send messages to all their staff, you know, little things that you don't sometimes see that kind of help us build generations of supporters. You know, PPG is a good example. They helped us do the PPG Cup, where we had something like 1,500 kids over a weekend compete. So it's in a football tournament, a kids football tournament. There's things like that. You know, Chris Lee of Lucas Lee would cycle in the bike ride, and he knows an influential family that actually contributed nearly 10 grand to our campaign on the back of his connection. There's all little things like that.
How much damage had the administration done to the club? Because I remember Scoffer, God rest his soul, he was telling me that obviously the administration, a lot of businesses lost a lot of money and lost a lot of love for Huddersfield Town. So when you came in, were you kind of finding that was a real issue, that a lot of people didn't want to do business with the club because of what had happened? Did you kind of get any of that backlash, or was it like, say, building relationships maybe with other companies who'd not been involved with the club at that point?
Because you were dead right. Even one of my friends who's an MD of a business over here in Huddersfield, he said to me that when the club, prior to the club being in administration, it didn't really have a relationship with the business community. Then it went into administration and it went banging on the doors of the businesses, and the businesses went, well, why should we support you? Why should we support you when you've not asked for our help in the past? So they found it was really challenging, and I heard that message an awful lot. Why should we support you? Because you've not done anything for our community. You're a football club, so there's a real stigma attached to it. So yeah, you're right. And what you had to do was build those bridges. You had to demonstrate to them that, yeah, them to join forces with us will be great for the football club, but you know what? It'll ultimately be great for them. And I'll tell you a little story of of one of my favourite commercial deals was I used to play football for Huddersfield Amateurs, and I know probably one or two lads are watching now going, oh, here he goes. And I was the only back-to-back captain that got promotion. So Facebook will light up with my mates on that one now. But anyway, I used to play football with a fella called Jonathan Thornton. He was my fellow centre half. Great lad. If you recognise the name, Thornton and Ross. Big company, huge company in Huddersfield. So John T. Thornton was a mate of mine, played football. A wealthy individual, great business in Huddersfield. When I joined Huddersfield, he was on my target list. Right, I've got to get into him. So I sent him a couple of emails, gave him a couple of calls, and he'd say to me, "It's not really for us, Sean. Don't really. We're a national business. Don't really want to get involved with a League One business. Not for me." So I pestered him, kept going back and saying, "Come on, John T, I need you to back us. You got employees and all this sort of stuff." Anyway, he came down to meet me in the boardroom at the John Smiths. And he sat down, he got out his checkbook. He says, "Right, how much is a perimeter board?" I said, "Well, stop there. Put your checkbook away. I don't want you to just feel sorry for us. I want you to listen to what I've got to say." So I stood up, did a presentation, talked about all the different opportunities. And at that time, we'd split the home and away kit and for sponsors to make it more palatable for businesses in our area to see if they could afford it. And I could see that it was kind of okay. And I said to him, "Right, what about if we organised for 2 tickets to every away game for your head of sales director, to entertain somebody in the different areas?" So, for example, when we play Leyton Orient, I could get you 2 tickets in the director's box as part of the deal. Your head of sales can then entertain a Leyton Orient fan that's a potential customer. And he looked at me and said, "Can you do that?" So I said, "Yeah, of course." And then that was it. He signed the deal, and they've been there for 10 years supporting the club, and still great sponsors of the club, even though it's been kind of sold and passed on. And Jonty's now sold his business, moved on, lives on a boat somewhere in the Caribbean, I think. But you know, that for me was what it was about. It's about understanding what it is the business of Huddersfield could get out of it. Yes, paying for that privilege, but understanding what makes it work for them. And that's always been the key for me. And I think it's understanding, it's listening to those businesses and going, right, how can we help? How can you help us? How can we help? How do we go forward?
A few more messages, Sean. James Barham, thanks, Sean. Pedal for Pounds was a life changer for me in 2012. He's now done 7 and loves cycling. Your energy was a big part of it all working, James. Team Red Nutter. Michael, not one bottle of Recordalic inside. What's going on? Will be missed. Always took time to answer people on Twitter, even if he needed a tin hat sometimes. Just an interesting one here, Sean, from Michael. Can you ask Sean if he thought the Paddy Power sponsorship was a risk and if he had any doubts?
Yeah, the shirt sponsors over the years, I've got to say, have been fantastic people. Kirklees College, Yorkshire Air Ambulance, Recordalic, you know, Kieran, who's now living in Australia, big supporter of the club, really helped. And he couldn't get his drink inside the stadium, but he supported the club, you know, and that was out of the relationships we built. Yeah, even OPE, we're in the Premier League. You know, I travelled out there to see the owner of the business in the Philippines, and that's maybe another episode one day. You know, that's an interesting story to say the least. But yeah, he became incredibly passionate about Huddersfield Town, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get people involved. And Paddy Power, yeah, it was an interesting one. And you know, I know some fans are not keen on it. Some loved it, and I have to say, outside of the bubble of Huddersfield, everybody I've spoken to absolutely adores it. Think it's brilliant, and the impact. It's how you measure it. You know, shirt sales were phenomenal. The reaction we got was phenomenal. Yes, we got fined for it, and if I could rewind that, I might do it slightly differently. But for what it was, it kept us in the public domain, and eventually the reaction to that kit, which I'm pleased to see you wearing, Cozzy, was
Ugly
unbelievable. Fantastic about was unbelievable, and I don't think we'll ever see the likes of that kind of demand for a town shirt ever again. You know, as much as I don't want to say that, it blew me away that morning when we revealed that it was a hoax and that this was the real thing. That you can't imagine how the demand for that kit just went through the roof, and the viral exposure that went around the world was phenomenal. Some might argue, do you know what? It wasn't the best for the club. It is what it is, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But at that time, as a marketing piece of work, it was second. And I think it's won awards. Paddy Power have won awards for it. Yes, they were radical. Yes, they were edgy. And when I came to the board about that, I did sort of say that this is going to be a bumpy ride, whatever it takes. But it worked. It served its purpose at the time, and Huddersfield stayed in the public eye at that time, which was important for us.
It served more than one purpose, Sean. If we go back a little bit, obviously we have a fair few disagreements on the podcast around this release. Obviously there were people who were against it, because it being one of them, and obviously I had a very, very different view on it for a couple of reasons, which I will mention, because obviously you were a big part of this as well. The shirt we have behind us being part of that story. On the back of those shirts, obviously there was a lot of money raised via the auction, and I was lucky enough to receive approximately £14,000, which was split between obviously helping the homeless in Huddersfield, at the Huddersfield Street Kitchen, and obviously the other club that's closest to me, apart from town, Andy's Man Club.
Yeah.
And to get the exposure and the support, and let me just make it clear to everybody, it's not about, especially Andy's Man Club, it's not about the money. It's never been about the money. I mean, when we arranged to have the day down when we played Leeds at home, it was never, ever about getting a bucket collection and things like that. It's always about people hearing about that, and people hearing about, you know, the good work that it does. So that exposure for us, yeah, the money, brilliant, because the Andy's Man Club money in particular goes into just spreading the word even more. It's purely spent on letting as many people as possible know. The Street Kitchen money, I mean, we're both on the radio the same day, Radio Leeds, they collared us. And the money that we raised, or that you gave us, and then we got also money from the Big Sleep Out, from the foundation. So we actually got £11,000 for the Street Kitchen. So you're looking at the best part of 3 years funding there, which ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So on the flip side of it being controversial and this and that and the other, there was always a very, very, very good side to that, and a great story came out of that that's helped a lot of people.
And you know what, Neil, you're absolutely right. For all that went on, if that has saved just one life, then it's worth everything. It's worth. And you tell me, is there any other shirt in football that has done that maybe has saved one life?
Probably not. No,
I can't think.
Probably
so
not.
If for whatever reason, one life has been saved as a consequence of that, I'll take that. I'll take that every day of the week.
Well, we'll just cover that, so I don't have to come back to it. We'll do it all in a one, if that's all right with you guys. Obviously, the stuff, I spoke to a few people, obviously made contact with you first, and spoke to a few people and got to know a lot of people very well down at the football club. And the support that Andy's Man Club in particular has had from the football club this year has been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, we got the day, the Leeds game at home. The game completely bypassed me, luckily. But to get our exposure, our members, they're not a football team, the members on the pitch at half-time representing Andy's Man Club, the LED boards, which went up to, we got told we were going to get 2 each half, that were near 6, 7, 8, and that was noticed. It wasn't, every time they came on, the sense of pride that I get. I mean, the Derby game at home when I saw him for the first time, not too proud to admit, I just stood on the old Kilner bank with tears in my eyes. And it's to have my club back in my club, just phenomenal. Every time I see the LEDs, the Leeds game, obviously the programme, Robin Kennedale brought me a copy of the programme out when we stood outside, and that were me off again because I just didn't expect that. I think Adam Tomlinson had a big hand in that, and that programme still proudly got it. It's one of the best programmes. Well, it's probably the best programme I'll ever have. And I've been a mascot and got my little mug in another programme from donkeys years ago. But yeah, the support, and I can absolutely guarantee, Sean, it's saved lives. It's not a life, it's saved lives. People know my Twitter profile and what have you. I just bang on about Andy's Man Club incessantly. And I make absolutely zero apologies for it either. I'll never stop doing that because it completely transformed my life in a positive direction. So to have that support from my club, I've had, rough estimate, at least 15 to 20 guys have privately messaged me on Twitter asking for information on Andy's Man Club. And from that, at least a dozen of those have attended and still attend Andy's Man Club, Huddersfield, and others, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds. So that's the power of it. So seeing that sign up there, if one guy that week sees that, that is what it's all about. And I don't want to go too much into it, and because I appreciate it's a subject that's very, very close to you. And I think the last time we had you on the podcast, you were unfortunately lost your nephew literally within days of the last podcast.
That's right.
So I think that became a bit of a... I was actually speaking to a friend of ours this morning, and he's very... nothing but good to say about you. Nothing but good to say about you, to be fair, and what you've done for this football club. But when it comes to stuff like that, that's more powerful. We spoke and said about, it's, without wanting to sound callous, the Andy's Man Club stuff probably came at a good time's a wrong thing to say. But I think that the timing of it, there's never a good time for what you went through, but the timing of it made it really real. Made it really real. And the backing that you've given it and is just phenomenal, and I'll be forever grateful for all that.
And I think everybody at the club kind of gets that, and I think me personally, you're right, and that period was incredibly tough for me and my family. My nephew, sort of late 30s, took his own life. One of the most intelligent lads I knew. I had a little girl, could speak 5 languages, so to this day we still struggle. So it's very close to my heart, mental health, mind, and his Man Club. And I'd sort of say, that anybody out there struggling, and there will be a lot of people in this situation, I'm certain, they should reach out. They should reach out, because there are people that can help. I'm not an expert, so it's not me. That people at Andy's Man Club can help, and they should do that. But I think that's the power. That is the power of a football club.
Absolutely.
The stuff. If you kind of rewind what we've done over the past 15 years, to sort of help people, like Andy's Man Club, like the Yorkshire Ambulance, Hollybank Trust, Forget Me Not, all these different charities that we've raised, we've supported, we've tried to do our little bit for them. It is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and that for me has to continue, because that's the DNA of Huddersfield Town. And I hope, and I'm pretty sure Phil and the new team at Huddersfield Town will continue to carry that and give back. But I think it demonstrates what really can be done. At the end of the day, a football club is a business, and it has to operate as a business. It has to generate income. It has to pay salaries and all the rest of it. But by the same token, it can be such a powerful vehicle to make a difference to lives that you must never ever lose sight of.
There's a smarter way to do things, isn't there? And that's most definitely one of them. So yeah, from my point of view, just phenomenal support, and it saves lives. It is that simple.
Sean, we're on this journey now. You've come in, Dean's put his money in, and we don't get past Millwall, that playoff game. Let's like a proper film here. So we don't get past Millwall. It's a bit of a ball job, shall we say, in my opinion, behind that goal. But we've learned.
Complete and utter.
Yeah. So next season, 80 odd points. I thought maybe we could have got top two. We didn't. But this was our year. We get past MK Dons, Peterborough, Old Trafford. Mate.
Do we have to?
Come on. Coming into that, Sean, how big was it? Did you think I've probably not got another season in me if we don't go? But kind of give me the feelings when that whistle blew, or the full day, really. Sorry,
Millwall. I'll tell you a little story. It's the only time I've ever had a police escort from our coach, which was the directors at that time, to the front entrance at Millwall. It's only about 10 yards, and I've never been so scared in all my life. We were just surrounded by all these Millwall fans. That was spooky. I was actually quite pleased we got beat on coming out, because when you went down that road, there were some nasty looking people.
Characters.
There were coach windows going through and all sorts of
my God. But yeah, the Peterborough one was an interesting one, because the plan was to turn Old Trafford into a home venue, if you like, because the analysis indicated that Peterborough were not so good away from home, that they were not going to bring as many fans as us, and that it was our opportunity, and this was it. And we went big style on it, making sure that it felt like it was home, with the blue and white shirts and everything. Credit to the likes of Jonathan Wilkinson, who went out there the night before and put them all out. These little things that you don't see of the staff. So got there and fired up. But then I think Lee, listen, I'm not a manager, and he would have to argue for himself, but maybe he didn't play the right formation. Danny Ward hit the bar, didn't he? Had that gone in, might have been a different story. And then bang, bang down the other end, boom, we were sucker punched and we were out of it. And I think that for me was the lowest point of my time, football-wise, the lowest point. Despite getting relegated, that was probably the lowest point of my time, football-wise.
What about the shirts, Sean? Getting
the shirts being thrown.
Yeah,
it hurt. Coming back on the bus, I was entertaining all partners who had come over, and I had to put a smiley face on it for when we came back. And we got some drinks lined up, and it was all a damp squib, so it was tough. But credit. I mean, Lee Clark was in bits. He was in tears afterwards, which was a tragedy. And Dean grabbed him, said, "We go again," and that was it. We came in. They were still fighting us. But we knew we could do it. We just had to get the right kind of thing happening for town, and we just knew we could do it. Even if we lost that year, we'll be back again next year. We'll go again. We'll keep going. It took us. You could argue it took us 3 years to get up.
Why couldn't he get us up, Sean? Why couldn't he not get us over that line? Well, it was a bit of a. I didn't think it was the biggest shock as a lot of people did when we parted company with him and Sam and Grayson came in. But a lot of the outside, I remember TalkSport, if you really care about them, people were like, "What are they doing, sacking this guy?" Blah blah blah. But why couldn't Lee get us over the line? What do you think, mate?
Yeah, we did. We came under an awful lot of criticism around sacking Lee, and I've got to say, Lee's a fantastic bloke. I still stay in contact with him now, and I recommended him for a job in Australia. He didn't get it, but he's a tremendous guy, and his successor obviously did the business, and he sent me a message today, actually, funny enough. Yeah, it was. Dean would know better than I in terms of why, but it felt like, for me, it felt like the grip was just loosening a bit. It was just starting to not go the way we wanted to go. You never know. Lee probably could have got us up. I don't know. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can guess. It was a sad day to see Lee leave, because he was passionate about the club. He loved the club. Yes, he had aspirations for bigger things. There's no harm in that. But it just didn't feel right at that time. And then, Larry came in, did what he had to do. He had a tremendous track record of getting clubs out of League One, and lo and behold, he did it. It just kind of happened. So it was a strange one, but it was a brave call by Dean, I think, and it worked. It paid off.
What would you like for them penalties, Sean? When with infamous Dean and Simon on the bench, what were you hiding? Were you down in a bottle of whiskey? Where were you when chaos was
the Alex Smithies one? Dean had gone down to sit next to Larry. I was still in the royal box. And I was stood at the end. When we got promoted at Reading, I was sat behind Dean, but I was sat at the end on this one, and I had my wife next to me, and I apologise if there are any Yeovil fans watching. I apologise now, because this is what she said. We'd gone down on the penalties. You'll see you're thinking, oh God, this is gonna be it. And I remember turning around to Nigel Clibbins and sort of saying, nobody's hit it over the bar yet. And that, history, speaks for itself. But we were down, and I remember sort of going like this to my missus, and my missus said, not effing Yeovil again. So she had enough of League One. But so apologies, Yeovil. A magnificent place. A great club.
I can echo those sentiments, having been at Yeovil on more than an occasion.
But and I remember turning around to Nigel and saying, nobody's. And we came back. God. And I remember, nip and tuck, and just sort of saying to Nigel, nobody's hit it over. And then, of course, the Sheffield United guy, boom. Oh, he's still going, to the stratosphere now, I think. And that feeling was amazing. I then, the EFL took us down through the tunnel onto the pitch. And I went wild on the pitch, and I got some great photos. Me and Nigel Clibbins on the pitch celebrating. To feel that success after all that hard work was brilliant. There was some Sheffield United people there, and they were so respectful of us. And I gave one of our colleagues, no longer at Sheffield United, but a massive hug. And I said to him, "says your day will come." And look at them now; they're flying now. So it comes around. But yeah, special day. That was an amazing day, and I think that was a day that Huddersfield went up a rung on the ladder. It started to move, and away it went, really. So very, very special, great summer. I couldn't wait to get stuck into the Championship.
And then, Sean, fast forward them kind of seasons. I mean, we nearly went down, didn't we, straight away? And incredible scenes against Barnsley, weren't they, when we were all on the pitch? And, well, I won. My goody two-shoes, me. Check the CCTV. But I suppose we've got to fast forward it, haven't we, into the amazing promotion season. Did you think in August, come on, you had no chance for it? What were your hopes coming into that season with David Wagner?
Yeah, the Wagner Revolution. The Wagner Revolution. Dean calls me the luckiest man for coming up with that. But yeah, it's, you know, prior to that, you know, there were some high, you know, Simon Grayson got us in the top 6, I think, early doors, so you could sort of see a little bit of the potential. You know, we had Mark Robbins, and do you know what? Again, a fantastic bloke, and I'm so pleased for him. I'm so pleased for him and Coventry City and what he's had to face there, and they're back in the Championship. For me, that's great. And I worked on Coventry Market when I was a kid, so I'm delighted for him. And Chris Powell, one of the nicest guys you're likely to meet. But it wasn't right. It wasn't right. And then along came David. And I think we played, first game was away at Chef Wednesday. And we got beat. And you could see, you could. I've watched that many games in football, in League One and the Championship, that you could see. And then I think we played Borough at home, didn't we? It was the Borough game.
Murdered them. Murdered them and lost them.
Possession, didn't we? Yeah.
They were flying, weren't they? And you could, and you just thought, there's something here. There's something here. And everything else that was going on behind the scenes, and you know, Scoffer, the ATT, you began to sort of go, something. You can taste it. You can see it.
Felt different, didn't it?
You could see it. You could see it, and you knew. And then we went into that next season, and so the Wagner, and I went away. You know, Dean, I went away on holiday, and this is one of my proudest moments as well. We came back, and we'd agreed that the pricing structure for the Championship season. We wanted a good crowd, and I briefed in the marketing team, and to be fair, what they came back with was not right. It just wasn't right. And I'd got back on. Dean phoned me up on the Sunday, says, right, what time are you in? I said, well, I'll be in any time you want. What do you want? So I got there early, came into my office, and he said, what do you think? And I said, it's not right. It's not right. So I came home. I came home that night, and we were up against it. Time was so I scribbled, and I think I've still got photos on my phone of the scribble. I scribbled it down, the Wagner Revolution, the 160, 99, all these sorts of things, the scarves and all that. And I came in and showed him my drawings, and got the marketing team in, and it was born. The Wagner Revolution was born. So then you could see it. You know, I don't think David particularly liked it, as I've since read. He didn't say so at the time, but it was born and it was going. You could see the momentum beginning to roll. You could hear things. We were having conversations with the likes of Scoffer and all those guys at the ATT about changing the atmosphere behind the crowd, behind the goals. And you just sensed it. And then went away to Newcastle. And what a performance we put in. And you thought, okay, something's interesting here. Came back. I'm not sure. We played Derby, I think it was. We beat Derby fairly early doors. And I turned around to Dean. He probably won't remember this, but I turned around to Dean and said, "We've got a playoff team here. We've got this is the playoffs." And you just knew it was our season. And then everything we did, kind of, and I've said this before, the culture was right, the vibe in the club, the stars aligned. It just happened. It was just magical. It was just magical. And even when Fletcher, I think it was Fletcher, scored at Hillsborough.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Then he took him off. And
within minutes, it was madness.
Yeah, even then. And John Sheridan, a friend of mine, sat behind me. And I turned around to John and said, blimey, taking him off. And he said, yeah, that was a mistake. And even then, you just knew we were going to get back in that game. And you could almost write the script that Forestieri were going to miss that penalty. It was just like, well, if that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen.
We had F on a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
And I remember, and Chef Wednesday, nice club, the again very respectful. and I had to pick up the tickets. The tickets were at Wednesday at Hillsborough for the final, and I can't blame them. Wednesday were favourites. They felt that we're going to do this. We're going to get to Wembley and get promoted. And after the game, I had to pick the tickets up. So I met the retail manager Luke and Jonathan Wilkinson at the Chef Wednesday ticket office, and we were packing the tickets all in the back of my car, driving them back to the John Smiths, and just that feeling, we got to Wembley, and boy, we got a shot at the big time, was unbelievable, and what a day that was. I had a heart monitor on. It was an awful day, but a magical day. I mean, the game of football was horrendous. I think Izzy Brown had the chance to score, and he kind of missed it. But again, even then, you just knew, you just felt that this is going to happen. And I was sat behind Dean and looked down, and he'd collapsed, and just the elation of the place was amazing. And I've got, where I'm going, off to Leicestershire, and I've got a picture I picked up today, actually, a picture that is going to sit on my wall, and my challenge is I hope he's watching tonight, Paul Nixon, the head coach at Leicestershire. I want him to make me have another picture aside this one. I'll show you. I don't know if you can see.
Not a picture of Ken Davey, is it, Sean?
No. That's the picture that is going on the wall at Leicestershire, and it's from an artist called Richard Gow, Huddersfield lad. Unbelievable fella. He, and I tell you, he sent me this on the back. But dear Sean, thank you for your support with this limited print. Please find attached a signed artist proof with my compliments. And I realise it's been a tough year with the loss of your mum. But my mum, I've lost people on the way in the journey of town. My mum was one of those. I'm sure she was watching. So I put, we have raised a great amount for Huddersfield Town Fashion Charity, amongst others, all through the season. That's been incredibly tough. I'm sure we continue support from the amazing town fans, incredible players, the management team. We'll be back to winning ways. This came through in the Premier League. You're more than welcome to my studio to come along. So Richard Gower sent me that. So that's going to sit behind me at Leicestershire County Cricket Club. And that's the challenge to Paul Nixon, to get me another one of those. So Leicestershire Foxes can go aside it. So we'll see. Maybe
Sean,
a T20 trophy or something.
I remember seeing you outside Wembley, play a final, having a walk around at about 2.5 hours for a kickoff. And I remember saying, what does this mean for the club? And you were like, listen, I don't even want to think about it. So, I mean, and then to go, obviously, the Premier League. But what are we talking, kind of just going, just times 10, 20, 30, just the jump?
A different stratosphere altogether. I'll tell you a little story about the playoff final. I was on a stag do with my nephew in Krakow. So there was about 20 of us out there, and I was flying back on the played on the Monday, so I was flying back on the Sunday. Stayed at my brother's house Sunday, drove down to Wembley, and whilst we're in Krakow, I'd got a phone call from Sky Sports, and they sort of said, "Will you do a little interview with us prior to the match?" I said, "Yeah, of course, no problem. I'm happy to do that. Not an issue." And I was telling the lads in Krakow I was going to do this, so I needed to be not too drunk on Sunday, so that Monday I'm all right. And they challenged me. They challenged me to get 2 words into the interview. And if you look back on the interview, I actually get them because it was a bit random. One of them was Cardinal. So he's playing a drinking game while we're out there called Cardinal Puff. Some people will know it. It's a fairly heavy drinking game. And the other one was Shaft. Typical bloke, Shaft. Get Shaft in there. So if you look at my interview, I'm stood there talking, chatting away to Tim from Sky Sports, and he says, "Oh, you've been away on a stag do." I said, "Yeah." And I sort of said, "Oh, it'd be a cardinal sin to miss this game, of course." I think, great, I got cardinal in. And I'm stood there thinking, how on earth am I going to get shaft in this conversation, whatever the conversation is? And he said, "What's it like, if Town get to the Premier?" I said, "It's like it'll be like," and it dawned on me, "it'll be like an elevator shaft, just going up and up and up." I'm thinking, so that was what was going through my mind on that interview. But yeah, I mean, going into the Premier League is a whole new ball game. It is global. The whole world is watching, and we were, Leicester City did what they did. I think what we did was on a par with that.
Agreed.
Huddersfield
100%. Town
getting to the Premier League.
Staying in it.
Unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
for us, that was truly amazing. To then think, well, we're going to be playing Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, whoever. It was amazing. And the moment I left Wembley, all the way back to Huddersfield to celebrate, my phone was ringing. Shirt deals. We want to do this. We want to do that. Partnerships here, there, and everywhere. And it is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Sean,
a bit of a change from League One then.
Sean, how hard was it with it? Because I was thinking just what you said there, people throwing the money at you. But how hard was it kind of to keep that loyalty? Because, to the firms that have backed us in the grim times and looked after us, the local firms, and all of a sudden you've got these multinational firms. Was it difficult? Or because I remember seeing a few quotes from you kind of saying that kind of maybe people had to move aside to let the bigger money coming in. How did that work? I bet that would have challenged that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that it was. You had companies that were interested in spending big bucks with the club, 6-figure sums minimum to be part of the club. And it was incredibly challenging because we've got people who'd been with us when we've been at Yeovil away, when we played Millwall and at home, that game, they've been with us. So you needed to be loyal to them. So we didn't hike up their prices. We bumped it up, but we didn't hike it up because we know that we wanted them to stay loyal to us. We wanted to be loyal with them. They, should we get relegated, we're going to need them because these guys are going to disappear. Once we get relegated from the Premier League, you'll see these big numbers disappear. So it's a real challenge. It was a real challenge. But I've got to say, we as a club decided that we needed to stay loyal. And we did it with the £100 season card. So we needed to do it with the businesses that supported as well. We needed to back them as well. And needed to make sure that they had a piece of the cake as well. So,
do you think we lost money on that, Sean? Do you think we lost money on you staying loyal? Because your values mean more to you staying loyal, the club staying loyal, than chasing the money. Is that a fact? Would you say?
No, I don't think we did. I think had the longer we'd have stayed in the Premier League, it'd have been even harder to keep that loyalty. So prices would eventually creep up, so that some of those companies then possibly couldn't afford it. But I don't think we did. We got good value for the shirts. We got some good partnerships deal in there. We turned 1 or 2 down. That's a story for another day. So we
25th of June, Sean, you're back on.
Are they? That'll be the X-rated version, right?
Why did we change that badge? This is our badge, not that rubbish that you put us with. That's why we went down, mate. Nothing to do.
Yeah. What was it?
Your fault,
that one. There you go. This one. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's another story. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. But anybody that joined us, it was important that we made them feel the Huddersfield Town in the Huddersfield Town way. And OPE, the Chinese company, they when I met them, he got very passionate about Huddersfield, and he spent quite a considerable amount of additional money on doing Chinese fireworks and partnership lunches and all that sort of stuff. So he paid for all that as well, and things like that were important to us, that they felt the fabric of the club, and I think that's what made us a little bit special. But it was a balancing act between keeping that part of DNA and actually trying to generate as much money as you possibly can for the club. So it was really, really tough, but I think we managed it. We managed it well. But for me, I enjoyed the journey to the Premier League rather than the time in the Premier League. It has to be said. I mean, unbelievable again achievement staying up. I was in France cycling when we drew at Chelsea. I was there at the Man City game, but when we drew at Chelsea, we watched it on a little screen in a hotel in France. And that was a great feeling, an unbelievable feeling, a great sense of achievement. But me personally, I love the journey to the Premier League.
How fun was it to do? Because I remember at the time, obviously, you were doing a lot of not stunts, but like launches for the club. I remember the big shirts at the train station and stuff like that. Did that give you more scope when you were in the Premier League because you had more focus to do those kind of big scale?
Yeah, there was arguably a little bit more budget for us to play around with. But when I joined the club, I always said to Jonathan Wilkinson, and I tell you what, there are one thing I would I'll just digress slightly. I would say there are some unbelievable staff inside that organisation. I've mentioned a lot of them this evening. For what they do, that they will die for that cause. They have no agenda. There's no ulterior motive, no self-motivation, and the people there. And I pay tribute to Jonathan Wilkinson. I always said to him, "You're not a marketing manager until you've got arrested." And he used to scratch his head and like, "What do you mean, Sean?" I said, "You get yourself out at 2:00 in the morning, putting banners up, promoting Huddersfield Town in places where you're not allowed. Let the council rip them down, and then you become a marketing manager." And and I have to tell you, everything I asked him to do, he did. And I remember saying to him that, I don't just want kit launches. I want to do something different with our kit launches. I want to make them noticeable because it's a big part of the football club. And yeah, okay, we got criticised 1 or 2 times, and people just sort of say, "I just want a simple plain kit launch," and that's fine. But I always wanted to do a little bit different. So you kind of think back. We did the Greatest 11, and that resulted in a company called Absorb becoming a partner of the club. They saw it. The MD saw that, wanted a picture on his wall, and he's been a partner ever since. So there's a knock-on effect. We did the projection on the train station with Jack Hunt and Danny Ward, I think it was, of the kit. We did the banners on the train station. We did Harold Wilson. We did the Ray Wilson shirt, which I was incredibly proud of. So we always wanted to do something different around our kit launches. So yeah, the Premier League did allow us to do a little bit more of that. And one of the things that I always wanted to do, but I never got round to it, was, and people like Michael Heffley would have been brilliant for stuff like this, was I wanted to get an artificial pitch put down in St George's Square and have a training session in the middle of St George's Square during half term or school holidays, and get David Wagner or whoever the manager was doing a training session inside St George's Square, and then stop halfway and then just go and grab the kids and get the kids playing in a football match on the artificial pitch. I never got round to it. I never sort of saw it through, but that's the sort of thing that was in my mind. I was a bit of a maverick, still a maverick to this day, and sometimes that's a weakness, but they're the sort of things I wanted to do. I wanted to just push the boundaries a little bit with us so that we could do things differently, and I think sometimes you have to stand out from the crowd.
with marketing, you've got to be a bit brave and a bit nuts sometimes, haven't you, to try and make it stand out. Like you say, having the courage and the convictions to put your own money behind the pink and white shirt. You know, sometimes you just got a little leap of faith and back yourself.
Yeah, and run the gauntlet. You got to run the
Yeah.
gauntlet. And I always sort of said, if I can get 51% of people saying that's good, that'll do for me. That means I've got the majority. Naturally, you want 100% behind you, but I think if you've got the majority, then you're doing some. And then if you build it up, you establish. You know, the club is forward, can be innovative, can be forward thinking, can try different things. And I think you have to step outside your comfort zone. And maybe sometimes I stepped a bit too far. Maybe sometimes I upset people. But it was for the one intention to drive Huddersfield Town forward as best I could, you know, commercially, pushes hard. And I always think if you can have a good commercial structure, then that means your football structure has got to be good as well. And if you have a good football structure, you've got to have a good commercial structure. So they've got to work hand in hand. So yeah, I remember doing a big poster of Jordan Rhodes when we got to the playoff final, and that was the first time a regional paper had done things like that. So all those different little things, I think, kind of add up to a bigger picture and make it more exciting for the club, really.
John, how much did it take out of you, health-wise, kind of this? Because I just kind of looked at it that it just seemed to be you answering on Twitter, the social media. We saw obviously Dean, with his illness, the other year, and I was just kind of feeling sorry for you so many times, and it was amazing, mate. You were always replying to stuff people didn't want to hear, and I just felt that I kind of a bit worried for your health at times because it just
felt like a one-man show, didn't it?
Yeah, I felt people were aiming questions at you that were nothing to do with you, but you always stood up and replied, and that's why, to me, the love that you've got from the town fans will always be there because you always fronted up in the good and the bad, mate, and not many people can do that.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe in fronting up without question. You should never be afraid to answer. And I was quite happy. Yeah, I hated it when the club was quiet. I just didn't like it, and I felt, being a fan, standing on the terraces, you deserve, in my opinion, you deserve the right to be answered. And yeah, I mean, I created a monster with my Facebook and Twitter feed. But I never regret it. I never, and it was done. It was done for all the right reasons. Some people think it was, self-adulation, that it was all about me, blah, 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 excuse my French, but complete and utter bollocks. And if anybody said that, I would say that straight to the face. I did it for one reason only, to help Huddersfield Town. And I've been a fan, and I think I earn the right. I pay my money. I earn the right to have some sort of answer. Let me know what's happening with my club. And I felt that it was only right that I could give the best answer I could give back. And if they didn't like that answer, there's nothing more I could do. But it was the best answer I could give. And I always wanted to answer any fan. And to this day, I still get messages through Facebook, Twitter, and I'll try and help them as best I can to support them. Yeah, it did. On occasions, you'll have seen it. I lost my rag a little bit. I think I was on holiday one time, and somebody had a real pop at me. I was with my family, and I kind of lost it. And I'm only human. Cut me, I bleed. I'm only human. But I always came back. I always came back to, well, if I'm a fan on the terraces and I pay my money, this is my club, and I want to know something, then please let me know. Let me know what's going on. And if it required an official answer, I'd always sort of say, look, you have to be patient. We'll bring something out, or I'd give them an indication of kind of what's going on. And for me, that's just me. That's just me as an individual. I was a front face of town. Paul Ramsden always calls me he says he's the voice of town. I'm the face of town. I'm glad it's not the other way around. It was just the right thing, and do the right thing. I've always lived by that. Do the right thing, and it felt right for me. And you know what? Once I leave on the 25th, I'll still put my opinions across because I think that's what's right for the club. And you know, and I'll be honest and open, transparent, trustworthy. That's what I would want town fans to remember me by, really.
Where do you see the club going the next couple of years then, Sean? Do you think we've got exciting times? I mean, it's a rebuild job and we all know it. I think we all know we need to try and stay up and kick on. But, you know, with Danny Cowley and Phil, obviously kind of new leadership in both areas. Are you excited as a town fan now?
Yeah. I'd say I'm looking forward to a Saturday afternoon, when cricket permits, Saturday afternoon, going into the pub somewhere, Slobbers or wherever, whether the gas club's up again. Magic Rock were keen on it, but wherever it is, I'm looking forward to a pint, going on the terraces and throwing pelters at whoever it is wears that tin hat. I can't bloody wait for it, you know. Where do I think the club's going? Well, I've known Phil Hodgkinson for a long time. Wears his heart on his sleeve, very passionate. Cut him in half, huge town fan. He is competitive, which I like, and that's where me and him probably go boom. We're two very competitive people. When we play golf, it's forget chairman, commercial director. It's Jarvis versus Hodgkinson. But I respect him. He's a great guy, and he will do. And if you look at some of my posts, he'll do right by town. He's got his work cut out, and COVID is not going to help. Picking the club up when it got relegated was a challenge. But Phil's one of those blokes who won't leave any stone unturned to actually try and drive the club forward. It will be different. There's no doubt. It'll be different. And I hope somebody steps up to the plate and answers and responds. And I'm sure they will. I hope that they continue with the CSR stuff. I hope they continue to engage with the business. So I don't think this is a case of it's broke, fix it. I think this is a case of evolving it into another level. And the people at the helm will have their own ideas, will have their own ways to go about it. And I think time will tell. It's up to them how they want to. I think Dean always says, well, it's not my train set anymore. So it's Phil's train set. He's got to decide the path that it goes. But one thing for certain, he's a town fan. So that, I think, counts for a lot. I love the Cowley's work ethic. I think that is a real asset for the club. Those two guys are very passionate, again, very successful. I think there's a bright future on that front. The landscape of football is going to change, so it'll have a big impact. You know, the funding in there is going to change, the transfer fee, the salaries will probably be, there'll be a lot of pressure on that. So I think the next couple of years it's going to be tough, but you can see town knocking on the door of the top six very easy. I believe. You know, PPG Canal side, I've not seen it lately, but is coming along really well, I hear. So that is a great asset for the club. So all the things are there, all the pieces of the jigsaw are there. It's just making sure that it comes together, that it responds in the right way. I talk about culture. I said in year 2, I felt that we lost our identity and our culture a little bit, and that needed to come back. I think they've got to rediscover that, of who town, what the DNA of town is. And I think once you get that, then town can be a very, very strong championship club and can knock on the door of the Premier League again.
Nice. I got a message here from Paul Gibson. The foundation and pedal for pounds and all the charitable works makes me proud to be a town fan in a way Premier League football never could. Well, Sean, I think I've got tissues in my hand, but could you give us a parting message, mate, for the town fans? And 15 years, and it's
tough. I mean, I think firstly, I want to sort of say a massive thank you to all those messages. when it was, I think it was announced on a Friday afternoon, and the whole weekend, and I mean from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock at night, I was answering messages of that were incredibly emotional, supportive. And to this day, I still get those messages. So from me to all those people, thank you so much for those messages. I love the club. I'll do anything for the club. The people inside that club. There's lots of other names I could shout out. Sam Horseman, Robin Deegan, Rachel Taylor, Andy Booth. All brilliant people that work for that club and support them where you can. I think Town my lad's grown up a Town fan, so that's it now. I'm stuck with it. I'm with it for the rest of my life, and I look forward to being a new chapter in the club. What I say to the fans is be patient, let the club evolve on its path. There are going to be some incredibly challenging times, and this situation is probably pushing Town and a lot of clubs, to the edge. I know it's been challenging for Leicestershire over this period, so it's going to be hard. So a club like Town is going to need its people, it's going to need its businesses, it's going to need its supporters to really come good again, and it will come good. But from me to everybody out there, thank you. It's been emotional. I've loved every minute of it as an individual. I've given it my all. My journey came to an end, and it was the right time for my journey to come to an end. But Town is right there. Rest assured, it's part of me, and I'll be always around. I'll always be there to help where I possibly can.
Well, I think, obviously, personally speaking, from me to you, Sean, thank you for everything. You know everything that you've done for me, and I thank you for that. And on behalf of myself, Cozzy, Brady, the other lads involved with the podcast, Matt, Simon, Danny, obviously give you a bit of stick over the time as well. But yeah, from us to you, thanks for everything that you've done. Thanks for being as open as you always have been, as amenable as you always have been, as gettable as you always are. You always respond. It's rare to find that in football. It's rare to find that, and somebody in your position. So from us to you, there's not a lot else to say other than thank you. And we wish you all the very best at Leicestershire. And I'll be honest, I can't particularly stand cricket. It just bores me. But I have said that I am going to come down with Cozzy. We're going to come and
got a stray damn on draft. A stray damn on draft. I had it last year. Sean.
We're going to come down and take in a
on the house. On the house.
Well, I'm going to come down and take in a Leicestershire game and hopefully get you there and buy you a pint. And But yeah, we wish you all the best, and thank you very, very much for the last 14 years. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, fellas, you keep doing what you're doing, because it's important that you do what you do and you bring your message to the people of Town. I think it's incredible what you do, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to that Leicestershire Yorkshire game and going up against Gailey. That'll be a good, and I can't wait for that one.
Sean, thanks a lot, and all the best.
All the best.
Fellas.
Credit to
Cheers.
Stay safe. Cheers, fellas.